Ethiopian region of Tigray, which has been on the brink of war
between the TPLF and the Ethiopian government forces.
Fighting broke out in Ethiopia's Tigray region on August 1st, when Ethiopian Federal troops and forces of the Tigray People's Liberation Front clashed near the border with Sudan. The fighting began at dawn in the town of Shererina and continued until about 5 p.m., according to reports from the area.
Fighting began early in the morning on the 1st of August in Shererina.
Heavy artillery and drones were reportedly used. By the next day, reports indicated the fighting had started to de-escalate. The TPLF, in a statement released Saturday, accused the federal government in Addis Ababa of launching a large-scale infantry offensive and of intensifying what it called destructive actions in the region. The party was banned last year, but remains the dominant political force in Tigray. The clash comes against the backdrop of a war that killed hundreds of thousands. Between 2020 and 2022, Tigrayan forces fought Ethiopian Federal troops, who were backed by local militias and the army of neighboring Eritrea. An estimated 600,000 people were killed, and at least 1 million remained displaced. The war ended with the Pretoria Agreement in November 2022, but the deal was never fully implemented, and analysts say it has been weakening.
Then in November of 2022, the Pretoria Agreement was signed, and that ended the war.
The latest fighting has already crossed an international border. Hundreds of Ethiopians have fled Tigray into Sudan since the clashes began, according to Sudanese security and medical sources. Among the arrivals were wounded fighters who entered the border town of Hamdayet before being moved about 15 kilometers into Sudan to a settlement known as al-Hashaba, or Village 8. That camp was already sheltering thousands of people displaced by the earlier Tigray War. It also serves as a base for a TPLF-affiliated unit known as Army 70, which fled to Sudan during that war and has since fought alongside the Sudanese army. Residents on the Sudanese side of the border reported sustained explosions and gunfire on Saturday, and some said they saw military aircraft near the border. For Sudan, the influx comes at a dangerous moment. The country has been fighting its own civil war since April 2023 between the National Army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The clashes also point to a wider regional strain. Ethiopian and Tigrayan forces have been massing along the northern border for months, and each side accuses the other of trying to start a new war. Relations between Ethiopia and Sudan are already tense. In May, Ethiopia accused the Sudanese army of backing TPLF-linked fighters. Sudan, in turn, accused Ethiopia of allowing drone attacks to launch from its territory in coordination with the United Arab Emirates. The UAE, which Sudan accuses of arming the RSF, denies any such role.
UAE is accused of backing Sudan's paramilitary RSF forces, though Abu Dhabi denies this claim.
Analysts describe the fighting as one of the most serious threats yet to the Pretoria deal. Stella Agara, a security analyst based in Nairobi, said the renewed violence suggests the parties lack confidence that the agreement's terms are being met. Handled carelessly, she said, it carries a real risk of a return to full-scale war that would serve no one in the region. She also warned of a humanitarian crisis.
If it is not handled carefully, there's a risk of a return of full-scale war.
Civilians fleeing Tigray are moving from one conflict zone into another, she said, and both governments will need resources they may not have to shelter refugees and keep them clear of Sudan's war. Agara urged the two sides back to dialogue and called for a new ceasefire soon, saying both should be willing to compromise. Any outside powers accused of fueling the conflict, she added, should stand down, and there should be transparency about who is involved. For now, the artillery and drone strikes in Western Tigray have stopped. But with thousands of troops still on the border and refugees crossing into a country at war, the region remains highly unstable.